Scott Freeman recording. Tuesday, April 14th, 1981. Reentry and touchdown of Space Shuttle Columbia. Touchdown time set for 11:30 Arizona time.
Down to acquisition of signal at the Buckhorn tracking station at Edwards. That's the first place where we will get telemetry. If Vandenberg's successful in bringing back up their system, we may get C-band radar ahead of that contact, ahead of that time.
What they're saying is that they expect to be back in touch in about 2.5 minutes now. You've got the chase planes up there. Is that tough for the chase planes to intercept this thing coming down as fast as it is, Joe?
It is. It's fast and it's very high because the T-38's not all that maneuverable at 40,000 feet. If they're in the wrong part of the racetrack pattern, there's no way they can make that interception turn. So you'll hear Houston give them a time hack as soon as they get tracking to tell them when the orbiter will cross that rendezvous point.
There's one of the chase planes now.
Mark, 2 minutes. Time we should be able to talk to the crew of
You think of the difficulty of being in a fairly small jet like that in a great big sky, trying to find something coming at you at something like 4,000 miles an hour, which is about the size of a DC-9. It is very difficult to pick it up.
That's right. John McBride will be mortified if he doesn't make the join up, but it's a tough job.
And those are the same pilots that were at Cape Canaveral when it took off.
Yes, indeed.
And I believe it took off something like last year, didn't it? It doesn't seem like 2 days ago.
Well, it was a
seems like
different
month.
era.
They come out at 34 miles up there, going more than 8,000 miles an hour, so they're moving right along.
And we should be picking them up. We should be not picking them up, but we should be getting the first signals that they got through in about 1 minute and 15 seconds. So they're that close. And after that, a lot of things, as I say, happen very quickly. They will pass over the Big Sur coast here in California
1 minute.
6 times the speed of sound. But after that, I mean, their critical periods are over. Their communications will be restored. The heating will have ended, and they will be
9,700 feet per second call.
They will be turning into a glider.
They're dropping now at 9,700 feet, and they're going...
AOS.
Stand by. Mark.
I thought we got an
Automatic
acquisition of
flight
signal.
control.
I thought we did too.
This is really the most important
Please
moment.
disregard the Mach 9 call. We'll give it again shortly.
Look.
They could be off
Now
course.
to
They
the
could
100 and-
have suffered, shall we say, thermal damage. All kinds of damages
C-band
coming
radar
down.
contact
You'll
going
know that
down
in
to
about 15 or 20
165,000
seconds.
feet. Range to go 410 nautical miles.
Stand by for Mark on 9,700 feet per second.
Sounds good.
Hello there, Houston. Columbia's here.
Hello, Columbia. Houston's here. How do you read?
Columbia, and we're doing Mach 10.3 at 180 AS.
And we couldn't agree more, John. Your state vector's good. We've got good data in-house.
Okay, it looks to me like the yellow is novel.
And now we think we may get a picture of it. A little tiny speck on your screen, and you're going to have to look very closely.
Mark, Mach 9 at 9,700 feet per second.
This is from the Air Force
Columbia, you've got
long-range
perfect
camera.
energy, perfect ground track.
Roger that.
And as you can hear, I think,
Columbia
it's
now 9 times the
perfectly
speed of
moving.
sound. Flight dynamics
And John,
officer
we're
says
showing you
he's
rolling right. Looking good.
That's normal roll.
rolling now.
We've got to slow it up a little bit as they come in.
Chase will be on time.
Okay.
Those are the chase aircraft. we're
Altitude
talking.
152,000 feet, range 311 miles, speed Mach 8.8.
Well, they're right on the
Roll
money.
reversal complete.
Columbia, we show you out of 151K now. 8.4 Mach, looking good.
Roger that, and I got a solid tack end locked on tack end 2 and 3.
Roger that, Trip. We're looking.
Approaching the coast of California now.
All 3 APUs hanging in there, looking good.
Roger that, we can curve.
Their
We have a
hydraulic
live
systems in
television
good
picture
shape.
from the optical tracker at Anderson Peak.
That looks like it.
Yeah.
You can see it outlined against the
Crossing the
clouds.
coastline
We
now.
show you crossing the coast now.
Roger that. We can curve.
6.6.
141,000 feet,
Dial team.
range 240 miles.
Tack hands, go ahead and take them.
Okay, going in.
We are now just about 10 minutes away from touchdown here at
Crew
Edwards.
now incorporating tactical air navigation system data into the spacecraft. Mach 7. 135,000 feet, range 221 miles.
Columbia,
Dead on the ground
very
track.
quiet to us.
Well, let's quiet in here, too. What a way to come to California.
Columbia, you're out of 130K now on the tracking, 6.4 Mach, looking good.
Roger that. Totally agree with those numbers.
And Columbia, your nav state with TACAN is perfect.
Roger that.
Mach 6, 124,000 feet. Range 177 miles.
And John, we're seeing near zero aileron trim.
We're seeing 210. Yeah, less than that now.
Roger that, out of 119K, 5.5 Mach.
All flight controllers giving perfect report.
Roger, we copy.
Slowing.
Hydrogen purge in progress.
Roger that, out of 112K, 4.8 Mach.
4.8 times the speed of sound.
John Young rolling, using manual control now.
We see Dill ass 21 degrees.
Roger that. Looking good.
Mach 4.4, 107,000 feet. Range 112.
Near the Tehachapi Range now. Mountains in California.
John, as a control on NASA terminology is Terminal Area Energy
Roll
Management.
reversal complete. Control looks good.
Columbia, we see roll reversal complete. Control looks good.
Ropes coming out.
They should be very near Bakersfield now.
And you're starting to get ammonia cooling now.
Roger, we can try.
And Columbia, you're out of 100K with positive seats. Looking good.
Lower than 100,000 feet.
Ejection seats can be used now.
Beautiful.
Below 100,000. Mach 3.
Ropes out.
That's the landing control room on your screen now here at Edwards Air Force Base.
Roger that. Looking good. We're looking at them. And you're coming right down the chute.
Rudder active now, looking good. Range 73 miles.
Columbia, we're go for air data. You're out of 89K, 2.8 Mach.
Still twice the speed of sound. 89,000 feet.
Your head is in.
Should hear a sonic boom.
Roger that. We're looking.
Okay, take in figure.
Roll reversal to the right.
Columbia, we see you coming right. Looking good.
Okay, Joe, have a hard time seeing the talkbacks on those landing gear hydraulic isolation valves. They look okay, do you?
Okay, Chris, they all look good to us.
Roger that.
Big S turns, Joe Kerwin.
No
Not in this
indication
case.
of it.
Not in this
We
Coming
case.
now
right
have a
in.
live television picture from the long-range optics at Dryden Flight
Columbia, you're
Research
coming
Center.
right down the track. The tracking data, nav data, and pre-plan trajectory are all one line on our plot boards here.
Roger, we can try.
Out of 70,000 feet at Mach 1.8, range 42 miles.
That is absolutely what the flight plan called for.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely. I mean, within inches.
They're going to be overhead here shortly.
Columbia, we show you very slightly high in altitude, coming down nicely, and the FES is to go to off.
Mach 1.3 at 58,000 feet.
Close.
Range 33 miles.
They're nearing the west edge of the lake bed on which they will land now.
Out of 56K, looking good.
The sonic booms will be beginning around this part of California in just a minute.
Mach 1 at 51,000 feet. Range 28 miles.
Columbia, you're going subsonic now, out of 50K, looking good.
Got to be about overhead.
Those will be the chase.
Right.
If we watch them, we might pick it up.
Everything looking good.
Columbia, you're approaching the hack now, right on the money.
We just had the sonic booms here. I don't know if you could hear them or not.
Columbia getting ready to start the big sweeping turn into the runway.
Chase has a tally.
Chase has him in sight.
And Crip, altimeter 3009er.
38,000 feet. Range 19 miles.
It is still descending
Columbia, you're coming right around the hack, looking beautiful.
at a downward glide path of 20 degrees, which is a very, very precipitous descent.
30,000.
They're going down about 13,000 feet
Control
per
very
minute,
smooth.
or dropping like a stone, as people on the ground say, but fully in
Columbia, you're
control.
really looking good, right on the money, right on the money. And we're seeing 1.3 Gs coming around the hack. Roger that. And turning on to final, your winds on the surface are calm.
25,000 feet.
Not a lot of stress on the pilots at this point or on the astronauts.
No, they have it made now.
They're still dropping very quickly, and the next thing they'll
Mach
do
0.6.
is-
Range 13 miles.
is change the attitude.
22,000 feet. Control looking very smooth. Speed brake at 40.
That's the shot, the picture from the chase planes that
We
you're
have a
looking at now.
television picture now.
There it is.
You're right on
There
the
it
glide
is.
slope, Columbia.
There it is.
Right on glide slope. Approaching center line, looking great.
This TV from the chase plane. $16,000 feet.
Mark 15.
Airspeed 271 knots.
The normal landing for a DC-9 is about
Fido says it couldn't
185.
be any better.
They will be down in that vicinity when they land here in about another minute.
11,000 feet.
That's real good underneath.
$9,000. 280 knots.
Everything looks real good. $5,290.
They're within 5 miles of the landing strip right now.
Okay.
2,500 feet.
Clear?
You heard him say pre-flare. That means he's going to change the angle from a 20-degree glide path to a 5-degree glide path.
There you can see him leveling off and
Now you
beginning
can
to
see him
flare up.
leveling off. That's it. That was pre-flare, and they did it. The next thing is the gear to go down. The landing gear will have to go down.
Here now.
There it is.
Right behind you, John.
40, 30,
There he is. See him?
Yeah.
10.
It's incredible. It looks like Los Angeles Airport. It's perfect, and he's coming back from space.
2, 1, touchdown.
There they're down.
5, 4, 3, touchdown. Look about, skipper.
Got all the wheels down and it's rolling.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see the little chase planes nearby.
Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, that's hardly the word. It's majestic. Now that plane will roll
First.
and slow down. It'll take about, it's rolled about a mile now.
I'll tell you that. It was super. Okay, convoy's on its way. Convoy on. Wheel stop for the Columbia. Wheel stop.
That's it.
It's going to get a lot of attention from now on. There you can see it behind us. It was an exceptional sight, especially after having witnessed it take off 54 and a half hours ago and watch it come
This
back
is Mission
here.
Control Houston,
Joe
the
Kerwin,
unofficial touchdown
you ever get used to that
time.
kind of thing in the NASA
2
astronaut
days,
corps?
6 hours,
Not if
20
you're in
minutes,
it.
52 seconds.
That beauty's
2
got
days,
99
6
more
hours,
flights
20
on it,
minutes,
and I want to
52
fly about
seconds.
8 of them.
And Columbia, Houston, we're estimating at least 26 more minutes on the ammonia. You're looking real good.
Now, what they're going to do now is that the technicians are going to go out there and sniff around to see if there are any toxic or hazardous chemicals
And as Columbia's
that are
main
still
gear
aboard.
touched the lake bed, the flight director's instructions were prepare for exhilaration.
They gave them 50 seconds at Mission Control to have a whoopee.
Oh,
as they
that's
put it.
right, that's
Then they had
right.
to put them back to work again.
I guess the whoopie's over already.
Houston, Columbia 18 shutdown is complete. Going on the doors.
Don't expect the astronauts
Roger.
to pop right out. They'll be in there for a while. There's a lot to do, and there are some toxic and explosive
Convoy is proceeding
materials
toward,
still
Columbia at
perhaps
this time.
aboard this aircraft. So they'll have to go very carefully about that. And astronauts Young and Freeman are still in their suits, and there's a great deal to be done before we'll see them come out at the end of this extraordinarily successful mission.
They've got to power it down, don't they? They've got a lot of switches and toggles to shut off.
And believe it or not, they still have a few tests to run as they power these systems down. All at their leisure now.
I must say, John Young told me before they launched it that he would be happy if they got it up and got it back.
They did, and he is.
This is Mission Control Houston. We expect the crew to be able to get out of Columbia in about 45 minutes. That's a phenomenal time for safing and power down.
That was the quiet voice of Jack Riley, I believe, at Mission Control in Houston. They all have adopted the laconic mode at NASA. They're really very controlled and all that. They weren't so controlled when the shuttle landed, though, today, and we took some pictures of that at that time so we can show you what it's like in Mission Control in Houston at the conclusion of a mission that took 2 days, 6 hours, 20 minutes, and 52 seconds. That's how long it was. And that's the scene in Mission Control at the end of this successful mission
Welcome home,
of
Columbia.
Columbia.
Beautiful, beautiful. Houston, Columbia, would you take a look at our home RCS? We think it's in proper configuration. Nice.
Roger, stand by, please.
I'll tell you something, for those of us who fly in commercial airliners, you see that one come back down 36 orbits
Columbia,
after it
hold your,
left this Earth
call
and
until
land
we,
about a minute and a half
right
within
back
the scheduled landing time and right on the button in terms of the runway.
Tom, I have some reservation forms here. Would you care to fill one out?
I'll tell you. I bet they didn't lose any luggage either.
No, that's right.
Columbia, Houston, and convoy. Ohms RCS safing is complete.
What you'll be seeing before long around the space shuttle there is a small fleet of trucks, and some of them with a very special purpose. The sniffers are there now, as they're called, the hazardous gas technicians, and something called the vapor disposal unit is going to be working before long. But these are men in specially equipped suits to see There was, for example, excess hydrogen, various toxics.
Around, Columbia, using sniffers to detect any gases that may be escaping from the spacecraft.
Joe, if you look at that picture, I think you'll see that the tiles seem to be remarkably in place. That's something
Yes.
we were all looking for. We can't see it at very close range from here, but there certainly wasn't any large-scale breaking away of the tiles.
Any residual concern that we may have had was dissipated instantly when they called up at Mach 12 and said, nominal, we're on the right trajectory, our trim values are low, because one of the first things if a tile came off would be to affect the aerodynamics.
All right, well, it's looking good down here on the ground, just as it looked good up there in space, and as it flew in its final approach. The Columbia is back, right on schedule, and we'll continue with our...
I've never tried.
That gears dropped. He was in a very critical phase because if he pulled his nose up too quickly and got too slow, he could actually fall that last 20 or 30 feet into the runway. It's a very tender and touchy maneuver that we're seeing him make right there, and he did an outstanding job with it.
And what a beautiful shot, too.
Oh, boy.
That's an old pro.
The only thing missing was the tail.
Spoken like a Navy man. Oh. So that's the landing. The mission is a success. Orbiter has launched off the pad at Cape Kennedy. It's gone around the world 36 times, and it's come back, making a landing for the first time in the history of man in a spacecraft, a space plane, a glider, whatever you want to call it, of this kind of configuration. And you see there the people in their special suits. They are called the SCAPE team, the Safety Assessment Team. It's a self-contained atmospheric protection ensemble that they wear to make sure that they are not contaminated. And they are now checking to make sure that everything is all right before they bring up all the rest of the vehicles that will perform their necessary functions before the astronaut's physician, Dr. Craig Fisher, can go on board. They'll move a portable white room right up next to the Columbia, and they will come out through that. Well, our coverage of Space Shuttle Columbia, now home, continues in a moment.
For about another, 40 minutes or so before they can come out, but all of the post-landing procedures going very smoothly. They're not finding any toxic gases or anything wrong with the outside of the orbiter, and we presume that it's all going well inside as well. Let us show you now the landing of the Columbia orbiter 36 and a half orbits after it took off from Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, on Sunday, just 54 and a half hours ago. This is what the landing looked like here. In that steep pitch described to you by John Chancellor at about 22 degrees, 7 times as great as a commercial airliner, beginning to flare out now. John Young at the controls, a dead stick landing so-called. No power, it's a glider at this point, and gliding very well, even though it's dropping fast. This part of the flight at least had been tested once before. Commander John Young returning from his 5th flight in space. This soft-spoken man from Georgia Tech has been on the moon, now has flown this historic first mission of the space shuttle. Pretty good scrapbook at the Young home, I would think, by this time.
I should think so.
And look at that landing in front of a few million people on television and lots of people here at Edwards Air Force Base.
Lots of millions on television, I would think, Tom. Gee, look at that. Those tiles just absolutely stayed on. I confess to having been scared to death about them. I think I'm not alone in that, incidentally. But look at that. That whole complicated system. It's the most complex vehicle ever assembled in the history of our species to do anything. There's the part of the convoy that's going out to surround the aircraft.
Well, NASA must be very happy because they'd had more than their share of problems with this space shuttle in terms of cost and delays. It's 2 years overdue. There are some critics who say it is not being used properly. It'll be used far too much for military purposes. But this very successful first test flight ought to make NASA happy and indeed proud.
Okay, excuse me, Joe, but I was just going to say that the convoy commander, those trucks that we see around the shuttle now. It says that they found nothing dangerous or unusual when they checked out the aircraft, when the so-called sniffers went in there. The purge vehicles are on their way out there now to do their job, all right on schedule, and we'll explain the purge vehicles after this.
The spaceship and her two pilots have gone through their final and most dangerous test with a blazing hypersonic descent through the atmosphere, brought the airliner-type vehicle right down on the prearranged exact spot where it was designed to land. These are pictures live from Edwards Air Force Base, where 12 vehicles and 270 ground crew members are in position, some of them in their emergency suits, the ground crew members, working over to make sure that there are no dangerous gases anywhere in the spaceship, in fuel lines, or anywhere else. Veteran Flight Commander Young said it was super. As he got on the ground today, a cheer went up, of course, inside Mission Control in Houston when the 122-foot-long ship rolled to a stop. Bob Crippen, the pilot, joked, "Do I have to take it in the hangar, Joe? We'll have to dust it off first." Alan replied. There's so much dust, of course, on this desert floor. That kind of humor, of course, indicating how relieved everyone is here. I got the feeling that the crew was probably the loosest of anybody connected with this whole thing. Certainly, John Young could not have brought it down as perfectly, and we use that word measuredly, perfectly as he did, if he hadn't been fairly loose in that cockpit.
Takes a lot to shake John up. He's one of the best stick and rudder men around.
Yeah. The crew still has several procedures to complete inside the cockpit as the ground crew swarms on the outside of the spaceship Columbia. But inside that cockpit, the procedures that are now going on can be demonstrated and will be by Mort Dean and Jack Lausma, the astronaut in Houston. Jack and Mort?
Dan, that spaceship that had so much trouble, so much difficulty passing go, has finally flown in space and has come to a stop. And it says that in the actual flight plan, STOP, preceded by braking, light, moderate, as required. Go immediately to post-landing and then stop. So they would probably just pull the flight plan off of the Velcro pad here. I don't know whether I can do it, but I'm sure they could. And stow it away, and then Jack Lausma, what next? They come up with the post-flight plan.
Well, see how easy it is, Mort? You just follow the recipe and make it look simple.
It sure did.
And after they came to a stop, they established communications with the convoy and immediately took off their helmet and gloves to get comfortable. They installed the safing pins in their ejection seats in order to ensure that they didn't fire off inadvertently. Then they're closing off the valves in their reaction control system and their OMS propellant systems to save them. They're also then turning off all the power to the various black boxes and electronics units that are no longer required. And of course, one of the things they want to do first is shut down the auxiliary power units, which provide the hydraulic power for control systems and getting the gear down and so forth. They're powering down so that only 2 of the computers are working, and a number of those kinds of things to clean up the spacecraft, to get it ready for the people to open the hatch and to come on in and check them out.
They are still working. It's not over.
That's correct. They have a lot of things that have to be done. They'll be in there from 30 to 45 minutes, and one of the first, of course, who will be in there is the flight surgeon, who will check them over to make sure they're both okay, and then they'll exit the spacecraft, and 2 of our other astronauts, Gordon Fullerton and Bo Bobko, will go in there to be in the space shuttle for its roll-in into the hangar, where it'll be attended to some more.
Okay, it says down here, MCC to LRD handover. Mission control to, what does LRD mean, Jack?
LRD.
We're not sure. Okay, there's one thing I caught you on LRD. Thank you very much, Jack. And Dan, we've all seen some of the test landings of a shuttle out at Edwards Air Force Base, and this was as good as any of those drop tests. It was just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Mort and Jack, and we'll be back with you a little later on. And our CBS News coverage of the return of Space Shuttle Columbia will continue in a moment.
You're looking at some of the activity around there now. They've got some of the fanciest names that you can possibly imagine. When you land in a commercial airliner, you maybe get somebody to help you with your luggage, sometimes not. Here they
it's really all about. To have it land here, and someday it'll be even smoother than it was today, but I can't imagine, Joe and Tom, that it could have been really much smoother in the future than it was today. It was extraordinary, I thought.
As they say at NASA, we now have discovered that our sound link up to Heidi Schulman in the VIP section, it is now nominal. We can go back to Heidi, and here's what she has to say. Heidi?
As we tried to tell you a few moments ago, a big cheer went up here as the Columbia came down, as I'm sure it did around the lake bed. One of the people cheering was Brigadier General William Anders, who circled the moon on Apollo 8. What were your impressions as you watched the shuttle land?
Well, Heidi, I guess my biggest impression was I was relieved. I was relieved that it worked. Not that I had any real doubts, but after having sweated out the shuttle since its concept way back in the early 70s to today, I just had to worry about whether it would actually make it. And to see it land out there in the lake, why, it just was a great feeling, really a tremendous feeling.
It's not the way you did it in the old days.
No, in the old days, our landings were more like crashes. We crashed in the ocean. The Soviets crashed into the Earth. This was a controlled landing, and really marks the beginning of a real new era in space. Space has really come of age with the space shuttle.
Did you anticipate then, during the Apollo program, that this would be possible?
Well, we knew that if space was really to become a useful and long-term part of our lives and society, that we would have to somehow reduce the cost of getting there. And if one can reduce the cost of getting there, then there are all kinds of things you can do. But reusability was necessary, and the Apollo spacecraft or the Soyuz spacecraft are just not reusable. Therefore, we had to develop a shuttle, or a vehicle that you could land, take off again, land, just like an airliner. And this is the beginning. There'll be modifications and changes, but this is sort of the Ford tri-motor of space.
And it looked pretty spectacular here today.
Great to me. I wish I could have been there.
Okay, General, thank you. We are going now to Boyd Matson, who's in the public viewing area on the other side of the lake.
Heidi, I'm over here on the eastern side of the dry lake bed. The people are already beginning to leave, but there were well over 100,000 people here at one time, and this is the view a lot of them had. They were standing on top of a van, just like I am right now. The moment the sonic boom went off, people began to zero in on the orbiter as it was coming into view, and a loud cheer began. It did not stop until the shuttle had come to a complete stop. I have with me Paula White and Steve Hazard, two of the people who were just here watching. What was your reaction?
Well, I really enjoyed watching it. I thought I had a real deep sense of patriotism watching this, and I just really enjoyed seeing what science is doing and how we're advancing and all kinds of things like that.
It's no easy task getting out here because there was so much traffic. You had to endure a lot. Was it worth it to you?
Oh, it was worth it. We came early to make sure we'd make it here on time, and got in here last night and spent the night, and it's a lot of trouble to go to for 30 seconds of action, but it was worth it.
There's a feeling that comes from being here that could not probably be felt by those watching on television, because you get the roar of the crowd behind you, knowing that a lot of people are participating in the experience. Did you have that impression?
Yeah, it's so spontaneous, too. You know, everybody looked up and said, there it is, and we heard the boom, and everybody started yelling and cheering, and everybody just felt good, and we started jumping around. It was a lot of fun.
And they got a lot longer view than was first anticipated they would get. They must have had at least a full minute of view of the shuttle before it landed. And I heard a lot of cries of people yelling, "We're number one," and cheering on the United States. And some people were even saying, "What should we do now?" Say the Pledge of Allegiance. And all in all, it seemed to be a very patriotic feeling on this side of the lake. John Chancellor, back to you.
Thank you. And they are still sniffing around the space shuttle. The commander of the convoy of trucks that's out there said that there's the electric fan truck doing its job, and not very efficiently, it looks to me. The fan isn't going around very well. Now they just turned it off. I'm sorry. They did find a small amount, and this is not unusual at all, of monomethylhydrazine, which is the fuel for the engines which control part of the spacecraft's activity in space. That was normal, finding that fuel, and they'll be removing that. The wind will be removing a good bit of that. The astronauts just reported a moment ago that what they're doing now, and I can't tell whether it was Crippen or Young, but I think it was Crippen who said, we're now going to have a spot of tea. So they're sitting in there having a spot of tea, having gone around the Earth more than 36 times in 2 days and 6 hours, in just a stunning flight and a landing here that has just exhilarated everyone who saw it, and we trust some of you at home as well. We'll have more on this story after this. What you'll be seeing there in a minute is the exchange crew going aboard. That is a crew that will. Now I think maybe they're coming out, but
you'll see John Young first.
These are the technicians coming down. I believe we'll see somebody go up those stairs first. I'm not absolutely certain about that, but it should be Dr. Craig Fisher.
There he is.
Oh, there they are. John Young. They skipped the medical phase. They came out early. There's John Young coming down the stairs.
And that's Mission Control in Houston getting a standing ovation.
And there they are.
Yeah, he's a happy man. Happy to be out of there and happy that this has worked well.
Yeah.
And looking absolutely healthy.
Doing a little quick walk around, just as you predicted, Joe Freeman.
Just so. He shook hands with George Abbey, and now he's going to look at the airplane. A good pilot always does a post-flight.
Crippen is still inside, I believe.
Yes. He'll be out shortly.
I guess Young just couldn't contain himself. He came out before the doctor went in.
That's right.
Then the doctor went in, and he's in there with Crippen now.
It's trouble with these veterans of 5 flights in space.
Look at that.
I would say he's not an unhappy man at the moment.
He's giving everybody the thumbs up sign.
That's right. He's thanking all the team out there.
See, that's about as animated as you see John Young, isn't it? I mean, he's a very laid-back character. Man of few words.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, from listening to the traffic between Houston and Crippen, he was just apparently finishing up a little work in there.
Apparently he was. It must have been something a little extra that wasn't in the checklist, but he just signed off.
That's right.
This minute.
So he ought to be coming down the stairs in a minute.
Right.
If body language tells us all.
I would call that a test pilot strut.
Yes, sir.
Well, we've said it before, there are going to be hundreds of these things made, and John made the first one.
Yes, that's right.
He certainly has been fulsome in his praise of the Columbia as a spacecraft, as an airplane, as a flying machine.
He has
He said it
indeed.
was a super piece of machinery.
He said earlier the L over D is better than advertised. That means that the thing doesn't come down quite as steeply as the engineer said. It's got a little more lift.
That's right.
This is good.
A little better glide than they thought.
Yeah.
Now he's going back up.
Now he wants to help Cripp get out, huh?
Two at a
There's that
time.
guy. Boy.
We've just heard from Mission Control in Houston that they've handed over this operation now. The landing control here at Dryden, that's the name of the official NASA center at Edwards Air Force Base and the Rogers Dry Lake. Look at John Young continue to talk.
He's telling him how accurate it was.
What are the bulges in the back of that suit?
I'm trying to figure that out. I think that's just, those are vent hoses, and it's just the way the suit's made with that extra bulk for pressurization.
Now, that's not a flight suit, that's the ejection suit, right, Joe Kerwin?
The ejection escape suit.
Right.
Yeah, it's an Air Force suit. And we'll quit wearing that after 3 or 4 flights. We'll remove those ejection seats and fly this thing like an airliner with ordinary airline couches.
All right, now it's handed over to landing control, which is here at the Dryden Research Center. And there is Bob Crippen.
There he is.
Happy Texan. his standing ovation. Bob Crippen's mother runs a tavern in Texas, in a small town. Porter, Texas, I think is the name of the town. And she wasn't real certain she wanted to go down and see the launch, but she did because he wanted her to be there. I suspect they may be having a fairly good time in that tavern in Porter, Texas at this moment and for the rest of this day.
Well, there they are in their van that will take them to the dispensary and a reunion with their families.
There's a surrogate commander and pilot in the vehicle now that are going to finish up the
but they're not
activation
astronauts, are
tasks. That's an embarrassing question. I'm not sure.
I don't think
who
they are. I think they
you're
are.
right. I think they're.
I think they're NASA people, but they're not part of the astronaut program.
I didn't recognize the voice. It's just impossible to say how much more you know about a vehicle after one flight than you do after zero.
Well, there'll be a very extensive debriefing of Young and Crippen, won't there?
Yes, extremely extensive as usual.
And then they'll compare what they remembered with what the various flight recorders indicated.
Just so.